Saint Theodore Studite, the Incompatible Confessor of the Christian Orthodox Church, who lived around the 7th to 8th century AD. This is written by the theologian Professor Dr. Lambros Skonsu. One of the most revered classes of saints in our church are the confessors to the faith. To this class belong the saints of the church who gave testimony of their faith. Of course, he's a saint of Christian Orthodoxy and Catholicism. Now, this belongs to the saints of our church who gave testimony of their faith without calculating the consequences of their confession. It would not be an exaggeration to assert that the church is completely supported by the struggles of its holy confessors in its 2,000-year course history. One of the greatest confessors of Orthodoxy is Saint Theodore the Studite, who acted in a very turbulent historical period for the Church. It is about the terrible iconoclastic strife which shook Byzantine society for more than a century, with unbearable persecution of the Orthodoxy by iconoclastic emperors, 726 to 843 AD. He was born in Constantinople, that's today's Istanbul, in 759 AD of noble and pious parents, who made sure to give him, in addition to piety, a worldly education, which he himself later used for the church. He diligently studied Greek philosophy and fathers of the church. From a young age, he loved Christ and longed to offer his life to him, and still a teenager, he left the career of a senior civil servant and retired in 781 to a monastery in Bursa, Asia Minor, where Plato's uncle was the abbot. He introduced him to orthodoxy, spirituality, and inspired him to dedicate his life to the defense of the truth and authenticity of the church. In 789, he was ordained an elder by the Patriarch Tarasius, and in 794 he assumed the position of abbot of the monastery. He did not have time to enjoy his abbotship because 2 years later, the Emperor Constantine VI, 780 to 797, divorced his modest wife Maria in favor of another woman, Theodotis. After confining Maria in a monastery, he secretly married Theodote the same night in the palace. The sacrament was performed by a priest of the Cathedral of Holy Wisdom, Saint Sophia, the priest of Hagia Sophia, Joseph. The next day she was crowned queen. Theodote was cousin of Saint Theodore the Studite. This did not prevent him from checking the illegitimacy of the emperor, but the ridicule of the sacred sacrament of marriage. He demanded an explanation from the Patriarch Tarasius why he did not punish the priest Joseph, and because he did not get an adequate explanation, he interrupted his memorial service. The flattery of the imperial couple did not work, and for this reason, the persecutions against Saint Theodosius began. They began. He was exiled to Salonika, that's northern Greece, until 797, where Constantine was dethroned and blinded by his mother Irene Athania, 797 to 802. In 798, he returned to Constantinople, where he became abbot of the famous Studio Monastery. He was fortunate to have in his abbotship more than 1,000 monks. He transformed the monastery into a center of social welfare and spiritual radiation. Among other things, ancient codices were copied in the monastery. Let's remember all the books there were handwritten. Then the works of the ancient Greek authors were copied and reached various people, and that's how they reach us today. But again, in 1808, he was forced to come into conflict with the Patriarch Nicephorus, who restored the priest Joseph as a request of the Emperor Nicephorus the first, and because he considered his election irregular, he was exiled this time to Halki and the famous studio monastery was dissolved, and his colossal spiritual work was suspended. In 811, he returned from exile, but 4 years later, in 815, Leo V, the Armenian, ascended the imperial throne, who inaugurated the Second Iconoclastic period. On March 25, 815, Palm Sunday, Saint Theodore, defying the decree for the fixation and destruction of the holy icons, together with priests, monks, and pious laymen, took the holy icons and carried them around Constantinople. Thus, for once, Saint Theodore will face the arbitrariness of the authorities and will be persecuted. After he was arrested, he was severely beaten, abused, sent into exile third time, this time to Smyrna. They imprisoned him in the damp, dark basements of the city's metropolitan palace, where he underwent torture mercilessly every day, and even deprived him of bread and water, and there his health was seriously shaken. In 820, during the reign of Emperor Michael II of Tralles, 820 to 829, he was recalled from exile, but in 824, he came into conflict with Michael over the illegitimate marriage of the emperor as well. You can imagine how many illegitimate marriages were going on with the emperors there in Constantinople. Once again, followed by some Studite monks, he was forced to leave his beloved monastery, for which he worked so hard. Now seriously ill, he left the world November 11, 826 AD. Today is his feast day. After asking the monks to read him the 118th Psalm, that's the psalm we usually read for a person's passing, he surrendered his holy soul to the Lord at the age of 67. Despite all his persecutions and exiles, he wrote important theological works. He also distinguished himself as a great poet and hymn writer who composed most of the hymns of the Triad. Saint Theodore the Studite is a representative example of an irreconcilable Christian with a sinful and fallen world. It expresses in the most categorical way the incompatibility of the Church with sin and the anti-Christian spirit. Although a monk, he defended the sacred institution of marriage, which had been violated by the powerful of his time. He also defended the holy and immaculate faith of Orthodoxy, which is synonymous with salvation. We think that our age also needs saints and confessors like Saint Theodore the Studite, so that we can get out of the terrible spiritual quagmire in which we have sunk. Please leave your comments about this, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.